Hello everyone, and welcome to Purple Rose Crafts. Today we're going to work on this beautiful ribbed granny square. I hope you guys can see all the texture in that. It's just so beautiful. I'm going to also be teaching some foundation stitches as well, and then we're going to go ahead and make this granny square. So we're going to use our same yarn that we've been using in the past. It is our loops and threads in the Snuggly Wuggly. This is our white ball, but we're going to start with our pink just to get started with our foundation stitches. So what I actually want to show you is how to do the foundation single crochet, half double, and double crochet. And then of course from there you can go on to make any stitch a foundation chain or a foundation stitch if you'd like. Let's start our first foundation stitch here with a chain 2. We're going to yarn over. We're going to do the half double crochet first because that's what we're actually going to use for our square that we have made on the side there, that beautiful teal color. And we're going to yarn over the first time, and then we're going to insert it into that first chain from our slip knot at the beginning. And then we're going to yarn over again. Now this time what we would normally do is we would pull it up and make our loop, but from here, and then we would draw through all 3 of the loops on our hook. Now we're going to yarn over, but we're only going to come through the first one. So that's essentially going to make us our first chain stitch here at the bottom, as if we had our chain row. And then we're going to yarn over and draw through all 3 stitches, or all 3 loops from our hook. And so now we're going to do it again, but we're going to go into that chain that we made at the bottom of the row. So we're going to do our yarn over for our half double crochet and go into that first, we're going to go into that first loop that we made from our chain at the very beginning of our stitch. So we're going to draw up our yarn. So we have 3 on our hook now. Yarn over and go over just the first one to make our chain. All right, so now we have our 3 loops on our hook, and then we're going to yarn over and draw through all 3 of those to create our half double crochet. All right, so now we're going to yarn over again. Let's go back into that same chain that we created from the bottom, or at the bottom of the stitch, and go in through that chain, put our yarn over. Okay, so essentially this would be where we would stop and we would finish our half double crochet. To make the foundation chain, we're going to just draw through that first loop on the hook to make our chain, and you can kind of see that right there. So that's making our chain at the bottom, and then we are yarning over and going through all 3 to create our half double crochet. Okay, so that's our half double crochet there. Let's just do it one more time just for clarity. So now we're going to yarn over down through the chain that we created at the bottom of our stitch, yarn over, draw through the first loop as we would normally do for a half double, yarn over, draw through just the first loop to give us our chain at the bottom, and then yarn over and finish our half double crochet there. So that's it. So our chain, our initial row is actually going this direction. It just works a little bit better when we hold it a little vertically there to get into the proper area of the first of each stitch. So you can see our half double crochets are turning out just as they would normally. We're just creating that chain at the bottom of our stitch as well, and here it is from the back. Okay, so let's switch colors and we will work our double crochet. So we're going to start again with our slip knot. All right, so double crochet in the foundation stitch. So this one we're going to do 2 chains again, same as we did for our half double. And now we're going to yarn over for our double crochet. We're going to go down into that first chain stitch as well, These are going to be very similar to the half double crochet. So we're going to yarn over, draw through our yarn over, draw through our yarn, same as we did for the half double. And now we're going to finish with our double crochet. So we go through 2 and then we yarn over and go through the last 2. All right, so that's going to make 2 double crochets. All right, so we've got our chain 2 here. You may notice that a lot of patterns suggest doing a chain 3 at the beginning of a row for double crochet. I tend not to do that because it often leaves a gap when I do. So I've started using just 2 chains to make it cleaner. All right, so let's do that double crochet again. Yarn over, down through. So here's our double crochet that we just created. You can see here, this loop here at the bottom is the foundation part of the chain. All right, so that's where we're going to insert our hook. So we're going to go down through there and then yarn over. Okay, so that would ordinarily be where we would finish, but now we're going to actually create an extra chain at the bottom for our next stitch. So, and then we draw through, finishing off our double crochet. So there we have 3 now. All right, one more time. Down through that chain at the bottom of the row, yarn over, draw it back through, draw through for our chain stitch at the bottom of the row, and then finish off our double crochet. All right, so there we have several double crochets, and you can see the difference between all right, so there's our half double there in the pink and our double crochet in the purple, which you can see is much taller than our half double crochet. And let's finish with our single crochet. This one's a little bit different because when we go through just the first chain on our hook, it wants to untie our chain stitch. So we're going to chain 2 just to hold everything in place, and then we're going to go back into the first chain stitch, yarn over, okay, and then we're going to pull back through our first stitch again and then finish off our single crochet. So there's our single crochet. So for this one, it's basically exactly the same as we did with the double and the half double. I'm starting with our 2 chains at the beginning of the row and then going back into the first one and then creating our chain stitch. So we're going down into the stitch or into the chain that we created at the bottom of the row, draw up our yarn, create our chain now. So we're going to chain off the front loop of our hook, and then yarn over and draw through both stitches. So now what we have creating here is our single crochet with our foundation chain. This is really helpful when you don't know how big you want to make something. So if you want to just avoid the whole chain row and create right from that very first row that you're working, this will help you to figure out what your actual length of an item is. I use this method for this granny square. So I started with my half double crochets to make this nice, ribbing pattern that we're doing. And I wasn't exactly sure how many stitches I needed for my chain row to make the correct size of a granny square that I wanted. So that's why we're doing this stitch first. Okay, so now that we've done all 3 of those stitches nice and quickly, let's get into actually making this pretty granny square. So for this one, we're going to go back to our pink because we've already started our half double crochets on it. For the initial square, we created 17, actually got us to the right width that we wanted for our granny square. So that makes us a 4-inch granny square. So we're going to go ahead and create 17 foundation half double crochets. And right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to go ahead and continue to the end of the row. And then I will show you how to go ahead and make this beautiful ribbing pattern that we're seeing in the example. Okay, so here we have the end of our first row of foundation half double crochets. We have 17 of them. And so now we're going to go ahead and start our second row. So for this, we're going to chain 2 for the beginning of our row because we're doing half double crochets. We're going to turn our work around, and now in order to make that nice pretty ribbed pattern that we see in the example piece, we're going to work ourselves. Normally when we work a half double crochet, we do our yarn over and then we go through our loops at the top of our stitch, but that's actually what we want to see in this case. So you can see there, that would be our V stitch that we want to actually see. And in order to actually do that, we're going to do our yarn over and go into this back loop here that you can see. So this one from the back of the half double crochet. So that's where we're going to work our stitches for this pattern. All right. Okay. So for this, we're going to insert our hook through this back loop that's showing here on the back of the half double crochet. So we have our yarn, and then we're going to yarn over, and we're just going to do a normal, regular half double crochet. There it is. Okay, so now it doesn't actually look like anything. So let's do a couple more of those and then I can show you what it looks like. So we're going to yarn over, go through this back loop here into our half double crochet, do our yarn over and pull up. Okay, so one more time there and yarn over. We have our yarn over. We're going down through that back yarn that goes across the back of the stitch and finish off our half double crochet. All right, I'm going to do a couple more of those and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like from the other side. The end of the row here, and basically we have done 16 half double crochets into each of those stitches in the space that I had mentioned before. And now what we're trying to do here is figure out where to finish our row to keep our edges nice and straight. So there I did the last half double crochet into the back loop, and then now we're going to do our last half double crochet is going to go straight into the 2 chains. So it's not going to be the ribbing stitch that we did in the previous section. It's just going to be a straight half double crochet to finish off the row nice and straight. So this is what it looks like when we finished our second row. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to turn it over, and there you have it. There is our nice rib that we're seeing across the stitch. So let me move it a little around. All right, so there you go. That's what it looks like. So what's happening is you're creating this pretty ribbing that's happening on the back of each stitch. So when you turn it around and you work into the next row, then you're going to see it, and you're going to continue working up your square until you have a square row. So it goes this way when we actually work it, but you can of course put it in your blanket any way that you like. So I like it more vertical, but we'll see once we kind of get it set out with other squares around it how it looks best. So we're going to come back at the end of the square. We're going to continue working in this fashion. So to do our next row, we're going to do exactly the same thing. So we're going to yarn over, or sorry, chain 2 and turn our work around. And now each of our half double crochets, we have our, all right. So our half double crochets, we have our our V here from the top of the kind of chain at the top of our stitch, but we're working back into the stitch, the part of the stitch that goes across the middle of this side. Okay, it doesn't work on the other side, so you don't see it from over here. There isn't anything to crochet into. So this stitch works really well when we're working back and forth, but not necessarily when we're working in a round setting. I will be back in just a moment to do the edging with you. All right, so here we are at the end of our square, and I have tied on my white yarn to go ahead and switch to our edging. So I'm gonna do my yarn over and do my first chain here, and then I'm gonna cinch down the pink, and we're going to work with our white now. So now we've got all these tails here. We're gonna actually work those into our stitching once we get going. So now we're going to do our chain 2. We're going to do our chain 2 to start off our row, and then we're going to turn our work around. Now we're going to work our first section along the top of these rows, this row here. And so we're going to do double crochets into each of those stitches. Okay, so now we're going to work into this first stitch here. We're going to make sure that our tail over our hook, and then we're going to yarn over, pull through. So we're going to yarn over, pull back through, and now we're going to work those into our stitches so that we don't have to weave them in afterwards, okay? So now we're going to continue working across the row. Now with our tails, we only really have to crochet them underneath for about 2 inches or so. So I do about, I don't know, 8 or 10 stitches or so, and then I will drop it and then cut it at that point. Okay. And when I turn this around, you'll be able to see our nice straight line at the edge of our pink work. That kind of gives us our nice pretty edge. All right, so here we are coming up to the end of the row, and we are going to work into our corner here. But if we turn our work around, well, I want to show you what the crocheting into the back loop looks like. So it shows this nice straight line across the edge of the color change. Now it's not going to look the same as we work down the side here, but that's okay. We can make it look as good as we can as we work around. So now we're going to go to the corner. So basically we have 2 chains here, which we're going to work our corner into. So we're going to continue with our double crochets. We're going to work 2 double crochets and then a chain and then 2 more double crochets into the corner. And then we're going to work down the side. Now we haven't done this before because this is more of like a modern style of a granny stitch, granny square. And so working down the side, we kind of have to decide how many stitches we're going to do into the edge, into the side of each stitch. Now I like to work into usually around 3 stitches, 3 double crochets into 2 edges. So for this, we're going to do 1 into the first one and then 1 into the second. And then to make sure we stay nice and flat, we're going to crochet a 3rd one into there. And then we're going to skip over to the next one. Now it doesn't really leave much as far as like spacing in our double crochet. So if you can see, here we're getting a nice flat edge and not really a lot of gapping between each stitch. So we want to work 3 stitches into the side of 2 stitches. All right. So we have 1 here, and now we're going to skip over and do 2 into the next one. And to keep our square nice and flat, without adding much, without having to worry too much about blocking. Blocking is another technique that you can use to flatten your squares. If they are like a little bit wonky, it does help by kind of stretching things out and squaring things off. I've got a bunch of squares in the pile that are a little bit wonky shaped, so those will need to be blocked as well. So there we have 1 and then 2 in the next. Now we're going to go 1 into here and 2 into the next one. Okay, so here we are coming up to the end of our row. We've got our nice straight edge here, not too many stitches, kind of giving us any like bunching. And so now we're going to go into the corner. So what we have here is the beginning of our foundation row. So we're going to yarn over, and then we're going to come right here into this corner stitch. Right, so this is our corner stitch here, the first chain from the beginning of our work. We're going to go through both loops on this one, just to make sure there's enough stability in the corner. And we're going to do our 2 double crochets, chain 1 and 2 double crochets on the other side. To get around that corner. And then we're going to continue working our double crochets into each of the stitches across the bottom of our square. And we're going to continue working up the other side. In the same fashion that we just did on this side, we're going to do 1 double crochet into the first stitch and then 2 into the second. Tell me in the comments below if you like this kind of modern granny square pattern. I have a bunch more in the works, like a zigzag and a braided one, as well as a puff stitch one that is looks braided as well. So give me a thumbs up in the comments below if you like the kind of modern granny style that we're doing this in this video and in our Celtic square video, which is coming soon as well. All right, so here we go. We have, okay, so we're getting a little bit of, a tiny bit of wonkiness happening here on the side. So I would block this. So I would put it on a blocking square, which my husband is going to build for me. And we'll get this all straightened out and it'll be a nice, pretty square. But don't you just love the texture and the kind of vertical striping that's happening in the square? I love it so much. All right, and then we have our finished square. Hope you can see that. The texture that's happening there, we do need a little bit of blocking here to kind of give it a nice straight edge. But you guys tell me, what do you guys like the best? Do you like this horizontal stripe like this, where you kind of, you know, see our rows going sideways? Or do you like the vertical stripe this way? Let me know in the comments below, vertical or horizontal, which way are we going to attach it into our blanket? All right, so I'm really looking forward to hearing those comments from you. So vertical or horizontal in the comments below, okay? And there's the back, just in case you wanted to see. It's a really great double-sided pattern, really beautiful. Awesome. Thank you for joining us with Purple Rose Crafts. If you like what we did today, click the like button below, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell so you'll be notified of future videos. Also, in the comment section below, tell me what more you'd like to see on the channel.